Well, I don't know how to feel about this, man. So, Tannehill obviously went down earlier in the week. Oh, sorry, by the way, Super Saiyan Zero back at you guys here with another video. Talking about the Dolphins here. So, obviously, earlier in the week, Tannehill got hurt. He hurt the knee that he hurt last year that he didn't get surgery on. And he was told he was good to go. And so he was scrambling out and messed his knee up. If you haven't seen it, there's videos online somewhere of it all happening and of it all going down. So, oh my lord. So Dolphins have signed Jay Cutler to come in and be. I mean, he's going to be the starter. I don't really think there's any question about that. I think for probably the first, maybe even second preseason game, Matt Moore is going to be the starter for now, just because he knows more of the offense. And they need to at least make it look like there's a competition, but there's really no competition here, at least in my opinion. I don't think so. Jay Cutler is going to end up being the starting quarterback of the Miami Dolphins this year. And, you know, I mean, when you first look at it, it's like, it's Jay Cutler. You know, I'm pissed because I don't think he's that good of a quarterback and all that stuff. But, you know, when you really sit down and look at it, he honestly makes the most sense. Me personally, in terms of the quarterbacks, in terms of the talent that is out there, Colin Kaepernick, I think, is the most talented free agent quarterback right now. Not even saying that I really think that he's that good either, but I think he's the best option. But the issue, and what I was reading in other articles too, is that, you know, he wore the Fidel Castro t-shirt with Malcolm X, and he's shown that he kind of supports Fidel Castro, but a lot of the population in Miami are Cubans. So if you were to do something like that, that sends a really rough message to, you know, to your community. And I'm not saying that it's 100% right to not sign the guy because of what he believes in. I mean, you know, maybe me or somebody else doesn't necessarily agree with the things that he says, or at least everything that he says, or, you know, whatever, but as an NFL organization, that sends a really bad message to your city that you represent if you bring in somebody that wears the t-shirt of a dictator, you know, that obviously doesn't like Cubans. That's not really a good look. So when all that is said and done, the Colin Kaepernick thing doesn't really make sense in Miami. RG3, no. Romo, first of all, if he came out of retirement, I believe he's still under contract with the Cowboys anyway, so we would have to trade with the Cowboys for him, and I'm not trying to do that anyway. And Romo, I'd rather put Tannehill in there with the bum knee because he's probably still more likely to stay healthy the whole season than Tony Romo. So really, honestly, Jay Cutler was the best option out there. He knows the offense. He's worked with Adam Gase. He likes Adam Gase, so he'll at least come in and he'll play at least a little bit harder than he normally does for Adam Gase. I'm not saying that, you know, his best season was under Adam Gase, which also still wasn't very good. I have to admit that. I think it was like 3,600 yards and 21 touchdowns to 11 interceptions, so still not very good. But, you know, when he comes in, you don't really have to teach him anything. I mean, you're going to have to probably get him refreshed on the offense because he hasn't been in it for a year, and he's had this whole, you know, off-season off. So I'm also sure he's probably not in 100% football shape right now either. So, so is the season over? God, I want to... Just the bias in me because I don't like Jay Cutler because, again, since my dad is a Lions fan, I also like the Lions and I keep up with the Lions and stuff like that too, so I've just hated Jay Cutler for a long time. So my hate for Jay Cutler, my bias for the Lions and things like that makes me want to say, yes, season's over because he's garbage and he's terrible. But all jokes aside, as much as everybody, including myself, loves to joke about Jay Cutler, he really was the best option we had, and I don't think he'll be, honestly, as bad as people are assuming he might be. I think we have a lot more weapons to play with in Miami than he did with Chicago there for a while, even though he had Matt Forte for a while. I think that was about all he had for a long time. And then he had Alshon Jeffrey, but that was when they were starting to cut ties with Matt Forte. Like, he wasn't. I think he's only been off their roster for a year, also. So I'm not saying he was gone out of there, but he was starting to regress in their offense a little bit, and he was a huge part of their offense. So, there's just a lot of things that go into it. I think he's going to have a little bit more weapons to play with here this season. And we'll see, man. I think our offensive line might be a little bit better than theirs. We got Jarvis Landry and Devontae Parker. Leonte Carew, I think, should have a better season. Because I believe Kenny Stills is not on the roster anymore, so somebody's going to have to slide into that third spot. If he is, then I apologize. I haven't really been keeping up with the offseason as much. I haven't really been watching or reading anything, just because after the Patriots won the Super Bowl again, I just knew that was all I was going to see. So I kind of stayed away from it for a while. But we'll see, man. I'm not going to say season's over. I'm going to ride or die with this team, and if Jay Cutler's my quarterback, whatever, so be it. Whether I like it or not, he's going to be the quarterback. I'm going to have to fly it anyway, and I'm still going to root for this team to win every single Sunday, and I still hope that they do, and I hope that Jay Cutler goes out and has the best season of his career, and goes out and throws 40 touchdowns and less than 10 interceptions and leads us to a 12-4 record and all the way to the playoffs. I really hope that happens. I don't really necessarily think that it's going to happen, but I'm not going to say it's not. So, we'll see, man. It's a rough schedule this year anyway. So even if Jay Cutler comes in and doesn't play that well, I really honestly didn't think we were going to be that great anyway, just because I think we're still building. We're still trying to learn how to win under this coach, with the players that we have. Even though we went 10-6 last year, we went 10-6 against teams that aren't that great. And this year we're playing the Falcons' entire division, all of them, even though the Falcons were the only team in that division that had a good record, they're all still teams that can win any Sunday. Teams that have offenses that still scare me. Even the Bucs. I mean, Jameis Winston isn't the greatest quarterback in the world either. I don't think their offense isn't that great, but they can be explosive at times too. So got to play that whole division. I believe we play the Raiders division. That just speaks for itself, man. You got to deal with Phillip Rivers, Derek Carr. That's just it's a rough schedule this year. And then obviously we got to play New England twice every year anyway. So we'll see. In terms of Matt Moore, I mean, I really like Matt Moore. I've always been a Matt Moore fan. Back when the draft was coming up and we were about to draft Tannehill, I was actually kind of mad when we did draft him because I wanted Matt Moore to start, because I thought he did a really, really good job. But, the more I'm seeing it, and even still last year in the playoffs, even though we turned the ball over 500 times in that game against the Steelers, we were still in a position where we still could have won that game when we drove down the field and we would just turn the ball over, But, so even still in that game, even though he turned the ball over a lot, we were still driving down the field. He was still doing stuff, but I mean, it was also his first playoff game too, so he had jitters as well. But anyway, I'm kind of drifting off the point here. I think Matt Moore is a very, very good backup, and I think he can be called upon to win games when we need it. But in terms of long-term starter, I personally don't know if Matt Moore can do that. I'm, again, just like the Jay Cutler thing, I'm not going to say definitively because we haven't ever seen it. But I think Matt Moore does really, really good with the role that he has. And they were talking about it here on NFL Network too. The biggest thing with Jay Cutler is he's got to win over that locker room, because Matt Moore has that locker room's respect. And yeah, Jay Cutler can't just roll up in there and just be the starter instantly. He's going to have to at least make it seem like he's earned the spot and things like that. So we'll see. I think, honestly, regardless, Matt Moore or Jay Cutler, I think Adam Gase is going to try to put this team in the best position possible to win. And I think even with either one of those guys, we can still win games. Whether or not one can win more games than the other remains to be seen. And so we'll see. Again, I think Jay Cutler's being brought in to be the starter. I don't think he's going to be riding the bench to Matt Moore even for a couple weeks to start the season. I don't believe that's going to happen. I think Jay Cutler will be our Week 1 starter. But we'll see. Again, I don't believe the season's over just yet. We have to wait and we have to see what happens. I trust in Adam Gase after last year, seeing the adjustments that he made and seeing what he's trying to bring to this team. I believe in his ability, and I think we might finally have a coach that is going to be able to put all of this together. So we will see, man. We'll see what happens. Again, rough schedule coming up this year anyway. I'm thinking about making a prediction, like game-by-game prediction by me, even though I'm not really into all that crystal ball-ish kind of stuff. But we'll see what happens. So I'll catch you guys in the next video. See you later.